Every year, my birthday vanished from their calendar while my brother's parties sparkled with champagne and cameras. This year, when they erased me again, I stayed quiet and started planning. By the end of the night, they finally learned what regret tastes like. Before we begin, I want to know where you're watching from. Drop your country and city name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories reach. And if you enjoy these dramatic life stories, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss an upload. Now, let's dive into today's story. My name is Nora Collins, and I learned early that some children are born into the spotlight, while others are forced to live in the shadows. My brother, Ethan, was the golden child. Every year on his birthday, our house turned into a grand stage. Streamers, balloons, a towering cake, and dozens of guests snapping photos as if he were royalty. And every year my birthday quietly disappeared, erased from the family calendar as if I didn't exist. At first, I told myself it was a mistake. That maybe my parents had been too busy, that maybe next year they remember. But next year turned into decades, 32 birthdays, most of them spent alone. A single store-bought cupcake. A card signed in a hurry. Maybe a "we'll celebrate later" that never came. But this year was different. This year, when they ignored me again, something inside me shifted. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I didn't wait. I planned. It started the morning after my birthday. While Ethan basked in the glow of his latest celebration, a rooftop party with fireworks funded by my father's money, I sat in my office at the PR agency where I worked. My phone screen was blank, no calls from my parents. No texts, not even a happy birthday from my brother. Instead, there were dozens of work emails praising my last campaign. Clients thanking me, colleagues congratulating me. The contrast was brutal. At work, I was valued. At home, I was invisible. As I sipped cold coffee, my boss, Mr. Harper, called me into his office. "You saved the Westridge account yesterday," he said, clapping me on the shoulder. "That's $3 million back in the company's pocket because of your quick thinking. You should be proud, Nora." For a moment, warmth filled my chest, recognition, appreciation, everything I had begged my family for my entire life. But the warmth didn't last. Because when I returned to my desk, I saw 6 missed calls and a text from Ethan. "Mom's been crying every night because of you. Fix this." Fix what? For once in my life, I hadn't done anything wrong. I had simply asked to be seen. I silenced my phone. And that silence was the first step in my plan. 3 weeks later, I found myself sitting in a small cafe on the corner of Maple Street. A half-eaten slice of carrot cake sat beside my laptop, untouched. Across the room, a group of friends surrounded a young woman in a paper crown, showering her with gifts and laughter as she blew out her birthday candles. I should have looked away. But I couldn't. Their joy cut through me like glass. That was the kind of love I had spent years waiting for, the kind I would never get from my family. And in that moment, I realized something. I could keep waiting forever, or I could choose myself. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Without even deciding to, I typed, "Lakefront Property, Michigan." Dozens of results filled the screen. My pulse quickened as I clicked one. A 4-bedroom house with wide windows overlooking the water. It wasn't just a house. It was freedom. 2 mornings later, I stood on that deck watching sunlight dance across the lake's surface. The realtor smiled politely, but her words barely registered. The owners already moved to Arizona. "They're motivated to sell." "I'll take it," I said, surprising even myself. "Don't you want to think about it?" she asked. "Maybe bring your family to see it?" I met her eyes, steady this time. "No, this is for me." The mortgage went through faster than I imagined, thanks to years of perfect credit and my substantial savings. On closing day, I signed my name over and over, each signature sharper than the last. Beside me sat Mrs. Turner, my elderly neighbor who had shown more kindness to me than my own mother ever had. She patted my hand gently. "You're doing the right thing, dear," she said. "Sometimes we have to build our own sanctuary." The keys felt heavy in my palm, but in the best way. Like they carried not just metal but meaning. That weekend, I moved in. Room by room, I transformed the house into a reflection of myself. My office walls held framed awards and photographs of my proudest moments: college graduation, team victories, magazine covers with my campaigns. My favorite room became the master bedroom. I set up a chair by the window overlooking the lake and stacked my nightstand with books I had always wanted to read. Above the door, I hung a small wooden sign, "The Birthday Suite." A week later, I sat on the deck with my phone in hand, drafting invitations. I typed in names carefully: my friend Rachel, my colleagues, Mrs. Turner. My thumb hovered over my family contacts for a long moment. A lifetime of conditioning urged me to include them. But then I'd press send to everyone except them. It felt small, but also monumental. Like drawing the first line of a boundary I should have built years ago. That evening, as the September sun dipped behind the pines, I sat barefoot on the deck and watched the lake ripple with gold. My phone buzzed against the wood railing. Missed calls, messages from my mother and Ethan, demanding answers, demanding I come home, demanding I explain myself. I slipped the phone into my pocket without replying. For once, their voices could not reach me. Because here, in this space I had chosen for myself, I finally felt powerful. Not just successful, not just accomplished, but powerful in a way they had never allowed me to be. And that power was only the beginning. For 2 weeks, life at the lake house felt like living inside a secret I wasn't ready to share. Every morning, I woke to the sound of waves tapping against the dock. Every evening, I sat by the window in the birthday suite, reading until the stars filled the water with silver. But silence never lasts long in a family built on control. It started with my mother. She showed up one Saturday afternoon, her black SUV crunching down the gravel driveway without warning. I was pruning the rose bushes by the deck when I saw her step out, sunglasses perched on her head, expression sharp as a blade. "Nora," she called, voice too sweet to be real. "What is this place?" I wiped dirt from my hands and stood tall. "It's my home." Her eyes darted over the house, the deck, the lake. For a moment, she looked unsettled, as if she couldn't quite believe I had built something without her. "You bought this without telling us?" she demanded. "Your father and I have always advised you on big decisions. And Ethan, he should have been included." I almost laughed. Funny, I don't remember being included in Ethan's parties, or his celebrations, or his life. Her lips tightened. "That's different." "No," I said, my voice firm for once. "It's exactly the same." She didn't stay long. Just long enough to remind me that my father would want answers, and that Ethan felt betrayed. She left with a warning: "Don't do anything you'll regret." But what she didn't know was that regret already lived in me, and I was about to deliver it back to them. A week later, my phone buzzed with a group text. "Ethan. Family dinner. Sunday at 7. Don't be late." The arrogance of it made me smile. As if he could summon me like a servant. I typed a single reply, "No." An hour later, my father called. His voice, deep and commanding, filled the room. "You will come, Nora. We're still your family." "I don't recall being treated like family," I said softly. There was a long pause on the line before he muttered, "You're making a mistake." But this time it wasn't my mistake. It was theirs. Rachel came to visit the next day, bringing along a tray of homemade lasagna. She set it on my kitchen counter and grinned. "So," she said, "you finally stood up to them?" I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "It feels terrifying and liberating." Rachel studied me. "Nora, I've known you since college. You've always been the one holding everyone else together. It's okay to let them feel the cracks." I thought about her words long after she left. Maybe for the first time in my life, I didn't have to be the glue. Maybe I could be the fracture. The final straw came on Ethan's birthday. I didn't attend, of course. But photos flooded social media, balloons shaped like gold crowns, a custom suit, endless guests tagging him with captions like #GoldenBoy. In one video, Ethan raised a toast to family loyalty. My parents beamed on either side of him, their hands clapping in perfect rhythm. Family loyalty. The hypocrisy made my skin burn. That night, as I sat on the deck staring out at the lake, I opened my laptop and drafted something dangerous. Not reckless, but dangerous in the way truth can be when it's hidden too long. It was a speech, not for them, but for me. Words I had carried for decades, sharpened into blades. Every sentence cut through years of neglect, every line exposing the truth they had buried under parties, money, and Ethan's spotlight. By the time I finished, my hands trembled, because this wasn't just a speech. It was a declaration of war. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. 3 days later, my mother called again, her voice brittle with anger. "We're hosting the annual Collins Foundation Gala this Friday. You will attend. Do not embarrass this family." The gala. The same event where Ethan was always praised for his philanthropy while I was left standing by the buffet table, forgotten. But this time, I wouldn't be silent. "I'll be there," I told her. And for the first time in my life, I meant it. On the night of the gala, I wore a black dress sharper than steel, my hair pinned high, my steps measured. As I entered the ballroom, chandeliers glittered above, and the murmur of voices filled the air. My family spotted me instantly, my father stiffening, my mother whispering something to Ethan. But I didn't go to them. Not yet. I let them sweat. I let them wonder why I was here. And as I moved through the crowd, guests greeted me warmly, clients I had saved, colleagues who admired me, strangers who had read about my campaigns. For once, I wasn't invisible, I was undeniable. When the speeches began, I waited. Ethan, of course, went first. He spoke about family, unity, success. All lies wrapped in charm. Then my father announced. And now, a few words from my daughter Nora. Gasps whispered through the crowd. No one had ever heard me speak at this event before. I walked to the podium, my speech folded neatly in my hand. My heart thundered, but my voice was steady. For 32 years, I began, this family has celebrated one child while erasing another. Tonight, I refuse to stay erased. The room stilled. Glasses froze mid-air. Even Ethan's smile faltered. I continued, each word slicing through the silence. They told me I should be grateful. They told me I should wait my turn, but my turn never came. So I built my own life, my own home, my own freedom. And tonight, I want everyone to know, sometimes the greatest betrayal doesn't come from enemies. It comes from those who claim to love you. The air crackled. My mother's face drained of color. My father's jaw tightened. Ethan looked like someone had slapped him, but I didn't stop. This family created the enemy they now fear, I said, voice like steel. And I'm just getting started. Applause erupted not from my family, but from the audience, strangers who recognized truth when they heard it. People who understood pain disguised as loyalty. As I left the stage, my brother tried to stop me. "What are you doing, Nora? You're ruining everything." I looked him straight in the eye. "No, Ethan, I'm ruining nothing. I'm just finally telling the truth." And with that, I walked out of the gala, the sound of clapping still echoing behind me. The night of the gala haunted my family like a storm that wouldn't pass. By Monday morning, clips of my speech had gone viral. Guests had recorded it on their phones, posting snippets with captions like, "The forgotten daughter speaks out," and "Truth behind the Collins family." Within hours, blogs and local news stations picked it up. By Tuesday, the national press had their teeth in it. For the first time, the world saw me not as Ethan's sister, not as my parents' afterthought, but as someone who had survived their neglect and dared to speak about it. And the world loved it. My inbox flooded with interview requests. Talk shows wanted me. Magazines wanted exclusives. Hashtags with my name trended online. Meanwhile, Ethan's perfect image began to fracture. The Collins family, once seen as polished and untouchable, now looked cruel, shallow, and broken. I hadn't even lifted a finger yet. The truth alone had been enough to set the first fire, but I didn't want just fire. I wanted an inferno. So I started digging. It wasn't hard. When you grow up invisible, you become a natural observer. I had seen things my family thought I was too small to notice. Receipts left out on the counter. Arguments half whispered behind closed doors. Phone calls taken when they thought I was asleep. Now, with a clear mind and determination, those puzzle pieces clicked into place. It started with my father. For decades, he had positioned himself as a philanthropist, running the Collins Foundation for the good of the community. But I remembered overhearing him once, telling my mother that donations were better than tax shelters. I contacted a friend in accounting, slipped him a few of my father's old financial statements, and within a week he confirmed it. Massive sums of money funneled in and out of shell companies. Fraud. Then came my mother, the queen of appearances. Always draped in pearls, always perfectly coiffed, but she had her secrets too. I remembered her panicked phone call when I was 17, pacing the hallway after losing thousands at the casino. My father had covered it up, of course, calling it a private matter. A quick search through public court records, however, showed a string of quiet settlements. Gambling debts, lawsuits, all swept under the rug, and Ethan was the easiest. His arrogance had always been his weakness. Parties, friends, travel always more extravagant than the last. But one detail stood out in my memory, when he bragged to a friend about using foundation money to fund a trip abroad. That was the final thread. When I pulled it, the whole golden tapestry began to unravel. One evening, Rachel and I sat at my dining table, papers spread across the wood like a battlefield map. Bank statements, screenshots, copies of emails. "You're sitting on a bomb," she whispered, eyes wide. "I know." I leaned back in my chair, fingers steepled. "And it's time to decide where to drop it." Rachel hesitated. "Are you sure you want to go this far, exposing them publicly?" "It'll destroy them." I looked out the window, where the lake reflected the fading sunset. "They destroyed me a long time ago. I'm just evening the score." The opportunity presented itself in a way almost too perfect. The Collins Foundation was scheduled to host its annual press conference, a flashy event where Ethan would announce new charitable initiatives. It was always a spectacle, designed to reinforce their image as a family of generosity and class. This year, I made sure it wouldn't go as planned. I didn't walk into that hotel ballroom alone. I had a folder under my arm, thick with evidence, bank records, legal documents, copies of transfers signed by my father, receipts in Ethan's name, settlement papers tied to my mother. When the press conference began, Ethan strolled onto the stage in his usual tailor suit, smiling wide for the cameras. My parents sat in the front row, beaming as if nothing had happened at the gala. But when he opened his mouth to speak, the doors at the back of the room swung open, and I walked in. The cameras turned instantly. Journalists whispered. Ethan's smile faltered. "Nora?" My father hissed under his breath as I approached the podium, but it was too late. I was already standing in front of the microphones. "Before you listen to another carefully polished speech," I said, my voice clear and steady, "there are some truths you deserve to know about this family." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Cameras zoomed in. Ethan's face drained of color. I opened the folder and held up the first document. Fraud, embezzlement, gambling debts. Foundation funds diverted for personal luxuries. For years, the Collins family has hidden behind a mask of charity. Tonight I'm removing that mask. The room erupted. Reporters shouted questions. Flashes exploded from every corner. My father leapt from his chair, shouting, "Shut this down." But the microphones had already captured everything. Ethan lunged toward me hissing, "You'll regret this." I turned to him, calm and unshaken. No, Ethan. For once in your life, you'll regret. By the time I left the conference, the story was everywhere. Headlines screamed across social media. Collins' family empire in crisis. Investigations were launched within days. Sponsors pulled out of deals. Donations dried up. My father's company stock plummeted. Ethan's friends stopped answering his calls. My mother stopped showing her face in public. And me? For the first time, I didn't feel invisible. I felt unstoppable. The shadows I had lived in for 32 years had become my greatest weapon. They never saw me coming because they never bothered to look. Now, all eyes were on me. And I wasn't finished yet. The Collins name no longer opened doors. It closed them. Within a week of the press conference, headlines piled up like tombstones. Fraud allegations rocked Collins Foundation. Golden boy Ethan Collins accused of misusing charity funds. Nora Collins, the forgotten daughter who exposed it all. For the first time, my name was louder than Ethan's, and my family hated it. My father's board forced him to step aside. My mother's social club cut her membership overnight. Ethan's firm put him on leave while internal investigations loomed. Everywhere they went, whispers followed. And they all blamed me. The phone calls started first. Do you realize what you've done to us? My mother's voice cracked through the line one evening, trembling with rage. Your father hasn't slept in days. Ethan's career is ruined. How could you betray your own blood? Blood? I repeated coldly. You only remember I'm your blood when it suits you. You're sick, she hissed. Jealous, twisted, you'll regret this. I hung up without answering. Then came my father. He didn't bother with phone calls. He stormed into my apartment uninvited, his presence filling the doorway like a thundercloud. You think you've won something? His voice boomed against the walls. All you've done is drag our name through the mud. You've humiliated me in front of the city, no, the country. Do you understand the magnitude of the shame you've caused? I met his glare without flinching. For 32 years, you made me invisible. This shame? You built it yourself. He slammed his fist against my table so hard a crack split the wood. You will retract your statements, publicly. Or I swear, Nora, you'll regret ever crossing me. Funny, I said softly. You said the same thing when I was 11 and asked why you missed my birthday. Except back then, I believed you. For the first time, I saw fear flicker in his eyes. Because he knew. This time I didn't. But my family wasn't just angry. They were cornered. And cornered animals are dangerous. It started with strangers waiting outside my office. Cameras in my face. Anonymous notes slipped under my door. You'll pay for this. Traitor. Collins' name killer. I didn't need to guess where it came from. Ethan had always been good at mobilizing people, fake friends who orbited him for favors. Hangers-on who would happily carry out his dirty work. Rachel begged me to be careful. They're desperate, Nora, and desperate people don't fight fair. I knew she was right. But I wasn't about to back down. One night, as I walked home from work, footsteps echoed behind me. Steady, unhurried, deliberate. I tightened my grip on my bag and turned the corner quickly. The steps followed. My heart pounded, but I didn't run. Running would mean fear, and fear was what they wanted. Instead, I stopped and spun around. A man stood at the end of the street, his face hidden under a hood. He didn't move, didn't speak. Just stared. I pulled out my phone and held it up high, the screen glowing. Smile, I said loudly. The camera loves a stalker. He froze, then turned and disappeared into the shadows. For the rest of the night, I didn't sleep. It became clear. My family wanted me silenced. They couldn't destroy the evidence. I had copies hidden safely in multiple places. But they could try to destroy me, so I did what I had always done best. I planned. If they wanted war, I would give them one. The next week, I arranged another meeting, this time not with the press, but with investigators, federal agents, accountants, lawyers. I handed them every file, every piece of proof. This isn't about a family feud anymore, I told them. This is about fraud, corruption, and the misuse of millions in charity funds. They listened. They took notes. They promised action. And for the first time, I knew this wouldn't end with headlines. It would end in courtrooms. But while I fought with facts, my family fought with poison. My mother went on television, crying into tissues, painting herself as the victim of a vindictive daughter. She claimed I was unstable, driven by bitterness. She waved old photographs of birthday parties as if a cake with my name on it could erase decades of neglect. She's not well, she whispered to the cameras. Please pray for Nora. The world ate it up. Sympathy flooded in for her. For a moment, I almost faltered. Almost believed maybe they would win again, like they always had. But then I remembered every silent birthday, every dismissal, every moment they erased me, and I steeled myself. The final straw came in the form of a letter, slipped under my door. No return address. Just one sentence, scrawled in bold ink. Stop, or you won't live to see your next birthday. I sat on the floor, the paper trembling in my hands. Fear coiled in my stomach, but beneath it was something stronger. Resolve. They wanted me scared. They wanted me quiet. But I had lived in silence for too long. I folded the letter, placed it in an envelope, and added it to the evidence pile. When I looked in the mirror that night, I barely recognized myself. Gone was the woman who begged for attention, who cried into cakes no one else had lit candles on. What stared back at me now was sharper, harder, a blade forged by years of neglect. My family had created an enemy, and now they were going to meet her. The Collins mansion loomed in front of me like a monument to everything I had lost. For 32 years, it was the stage where my erasure played out. Ethan's glittering parties, my invisible birthdays, my parents' endless worship of their golden son. But tonight, it would be their tomb. The courtroom battles had dragged on for months. Investigators tore through financial records, auditors uncovered trails of stolen money, and the press devoured every leak. Ethan's face, once smiling from magazine covers, was now plastered across tabloids, with words like fraud, embezzler, and con artist. My father's empire crumbled, piece by piece. My mother's charity luncheons vanished when donors fled, and me? I was no longer invisible. My name became synonymous with exposure, justice, revenge. But my work wasn't finished. They still believed they could break me, silence me, force me back into the shadows. They hadn't yet realized the truth. I wasn't after their forgiveness. I was after their complete destruction. The family summit was set for my 33rd birthday. How poetic! An engraved invitation arrived at my door, unsigned, but I knew who had sent it. My father. He wanted one last attempt at control. One last performance to convince me to retract, to make peace. Peace was never my plan. I accepted. When I walked into the dining room that night, the air was thick with old lies. The same table, the same fine china, the same beef Wellington Ethan always got on his birthdays. But this time I wasn't sitting quietly. I carried a black box under my arm. Inside was my final weapon. Happy birthday, my mother crooned. Her smile stretched tight, as if she believed balloons and cake could erase betrayal. Ethan's eyes burned holes into me, his once polished confidence stripped bare. My father sat stiff, jaw clenched, like a king whose crown has slipped. I sat down slowly, placing the box in the center of the table. This, I said, tapping the lid, is my gift to myself. And my curse to you. They shifted uncomfortably. My mother forced a laugh. Oh, Nora, must we open it? I interrupted. Ethan lifted the lid. Inside, neatly stacked, were dozens of flash drives, each labeled with dates, accounts, and names. These are copies, I explained. The originals are already with journalists, lawyers, and investigators. If anything happens to me, every single one goes public. Emails, bank statements, wire transfers, everything. My father's face turned ashen. You wouldn't. I leaned forward, my voice low but lethal. I already did. The kind of silence that breaks bones. My mother's tears came next, predictable as rain. We were only trying to protect the family name. To keep things balanced, you've always misunderstood. Misunderstood? My voice cracked like a whip. 32 years I begged to be seen, to be loved, to be chosen. You chose him every time. Ethan slammed his hand on the table. Because I earned it. I was the one carrying the legacy while you sat around sulking. My laughter was sharp, cold. You didn't earn anything. You stole. And they let you. I slid a final envelope across the table. Inside are letters handwritten, from employees you exploited, people you left in ruin while you played prince. Their voices are louder than mine now. The world sees you for what you are. Ethan didn't open it. His hands shook too badly. My father rose suddenly, looming over me. If you think you've won, you're wrong. Family blood runs thicker than public opinion. We'll recover. We always do. I stood too, my eyes locking onto his. Not this time. From my bag I pulled out a single photograph. Me at 6 years old, standing beside Ethan's towering birthday cake, holding a single store-bought cupcake. I laid it on the table. This is what you created, I whispered. And now you're watching what it's become. The weight of my words settled like a curse. My mother covered her face. My father's fists clenched. Ethan stared blankly, the empire he'd inherited slipping through his trembling fingers. I picked up the box, tucked it under my arm again, and walked toward the door. Behind me, my father called out, voice hoarse with fury. You'll regret this, Nora. I didn't turn back. No, I said, my voice steady as steel. For the first time in my life. You will. The door closed behind me with a final click, soft, but louder than thunder. A year later, I stood on the deck of my own home, a lakeside sanctuary built with my own money, my own hands, my own will. This time, 33 candles glowed on my cake. But I didn't blow them out alone. Around me were colleagues, friends, people who chose me not because of blood, but because of loyalty. Rachel raised a glass. To Nora Collins, the woman who burned her family's empire to the ground. And rose from the ashes brighter than ever. Cheers erupted. Laughter spilled into the night. My phone buzzed on the table beside me. A missed call from Mother, another from Ethan. Dozens of unread messages, desperate apologies, empty words. I silenced the phone and turned back to the lake, where the sunset painted the water in gold. This was my kingdom now, my legacy. And as the candles flickered, I made a silent vow. I would never again wait for someone else to celebrate me. Because revenge had given me the one gift my family never could, power. If this story kept you hooked, hit the like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more intense revenge tales. Don't forget to share where you're watching from.